I'd been working late at the office. The cleaner kept giving me peculiar glances, and as she was leaving, she discreetly placed a note. Go home via the fire escape. I did, and I was speechless at what I saw. Before we continue, please tell me what country you're from and your age. Enjoy the story. Elena Petrovna had never considered herself the sort of person to experience movie-like events. She is 41. She's an accountant, or rather, the lead reporting specialist at a major construction firm. Work, figures, deadlines, signatures, home, a quiet 2-bedroom apartment where everything has its place. The same routine, day in and day out. The subway in the morning, the commute back in the evening. She even listened to the same calm, emotionless music on her headphones. That day, she headed to work with her usual bag and a neutral expression. Nothing hinted at what was to come. The only thought occupying her mind was, I need to finish the quarterly report. Her boss had said that morning, Elena Petrovna, you're our reliable one. We're counting on you. The word reliable sounded less like a compliment and more like a sentence. By evening, the office had emptied. The managers left first, then the engineers. The security guard at the turnstile yawned lazily and wished everyone a good evening. Some of the lights in the corridor were turned off. The lamps reflected in the glass doors like in cold water. Elena was left alone. It wasn't her first time staying late. There were reports, audits, and emergencies. She was used to it. She put the kettle on in the small kitchen, ate a couple of cookies, and returned to her computer. At 9 o'clock in the evening, her sister called. Lena, still at work? Yes, just a little bit left. Don't worry. I'm not worried, her sister sighed, but at least take a taxi. It's late. I will, if necessary. She said it habitually. In reality, she rarely took taxis. She was saving money. Besides, the route was familiar. Our neighborhood is quiet, everyone said. At 10 o'clock in the evening, the sound of a mop and bucket echoed through the floor. The cleaner had arrived. Elena had known her for a long time, though they'd barely spoken personally. The woman was short, neat, wore a dark robe and a headscarf. She always greeted Elena quietly as if afraid to disturb her. Her name was Nina Ivanovna. Nina Ivanovna paused for a second as she passed Elena's office. She didn't enter, just peeked in, and immediately looked away. Elena looked up and nodded. Good evening, Nina Ivanovna. Good evening, she replied quickly and walked on. Elena buried herself back in the figures. On the screen were tables, rows, percentages, quarterly expenses, payments, invoices. Everything was as usual. Only one anomaly caught her eye. In one of the documents, a sum appeared that couldn't possibly be correct. It was far too large, and the payment description was vague. Support services. Elena frowned, opened the supporting documents, reviewed the correspondence, and looked again. The sum didn't match, and the signature wasn't from the usual person who signed such papers. Probably a mistake, she told herself and made a note. But a mistake is when a number is accidentally misplaced. This looked deliberate, as if someone had intentionally made it seem normal at first glance. Elena disliked suspecting people. It was easier for her to assume there had been an oversight, but an unpleasant feeling arose within her, like grit under her shoe. It seemed trivial, and yet it hindered her progress. She opened another file, and another, and there too something was odd, and there as well. Elena leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes for a moment. So peaceful. She'd sort it out tomorrow. It was too late now. At that moment, footsteps were heard in the corridor again. Nina Ivanovna was returning, but her steps were different now. Cautious, like someone trying to pass unnoticed. Elena looked up again and saw Nina Ivanovna standing in the office doorway. Elena Petrovna, she said quietly. Yes? Nina Ivanovna seemed hesitant. Her fingers, clad in rubber gloves, fiddled with the edge of one, like a child tugging at a sleeve. Are you still working late? About 20 minutes, Elena replied. Why? Nina Ivanovna quickly glanced down the corridor as if someone might be eavesdropping. Then she looked back at Elena, and in that look, There was something Elena had never seen in her before. Not fear, but a profound adult dread. "Go home," Nina Ivanovna swallowed. "Go home, but not through the main entrance." Elena blinked. "What do you mean?" Nina Ivanovna stepped closer and added, almost in a whisper, "Via the fire escape. It's necessary." Elena wanted to ask why, but the cleaner had already taken a folded napkin from her pocket and placed it on the desk, as if simply leaving a note. I can't explain," Nina Ivanovna whispered. "Please, do you believe me?" Elena was taken aback. She didn't know what to say. Saying yes felt strange. Saying no felt even stranger. Yet something in the woman's voice made Elena nod. Nina Ivanovna exhaled as if a weight had been lifted. "Thank you," she said, and left quickly. Elena remained alone. She unfolded the napkin. In a trembling hand it read, "Don't leave as usual. Fire escape. Don't call anyone." Elena looked at these words and felt her fingers grow cold. What could possibly happen in a typical business center, in an ordinary city, to an ordinary accountant? Yet her heart pounded faster. She sat there thinking, maybe the woman is just stressed. Maybe she imagined it. Perhaps she overheard some conversations, then saw the strange documents on the screen, and her imagination ran away with her. Elena quickly finished the most urgent tasks, saved the files, turned off her computer, and checked the time. Almost 11. She usually left through the main hall. It was well lit, with security and cameras. Now, for some reason, she didn't want to go there. She stood up, grabbed her bag, and put on her coat. Sparse lights flickered in the corridor. Somewhere in the distance, a door creaked. The floor was deserted. The fire escape was at the end of the corridor, behind a gray metal door marked Exit. Elena had never used it. As a precaution, she pushed the door. It gave way, and a gust of cold, metallic air wafted out. The staircase was narrow, with concrete steps. The light flickered, and water dripped somewhere. Elena stepped down and carefully closed the door behind her. Her heart beat loudly, as if the entire empty corridor could hear it. She descended slowly. On a landing between floors, she stopped and listened. Silence. She descended further, and then a muffled voice drifted up from below, not close but distinct, male. Then a second voice. The words were indistinct, but the tone was businesslike, unfriendly, like people waiting impatiently but trying to remain composed. Elena froze. She remembered the note. "Don't call anyone." But a thought flashed through her mind. What if it's just security? She descended another flight and peered through the narrow window near the exit. Indeed, 2 men stood near the main entrance. They weren't security guards. They wore no uniforms, just dark jackets. One was smoking, the other held a phone, looking at the screen, occasionally glancing towards the door. They looked as if they weren't waiting for a taxi or a friend. They were waiting for someone to emerge. Elena pressed herself against the wall, her palms sweating. She suddenly understood with chilling clarity. If she had exited through the main entrance, these 2 would have approached her first. Why? She didn't even want to contemplate it. Elena stood and watched as one man leaned towards the other and said something. The second man nodded and seemed to smile. Briefly, unpleasantly. Then the man with the phone spoke quietly into his receiver. "Yes. She hasn't come out yet." Elena didn't hear a name, but she caught the pronoun. Her knees felt like jelly. She bit her lip to stifle a cry. Turning, she hurried back upstairs, trying not to let her heels click. On the second-floor landing, she stopped and exhaled. Her head was spinning. "Okay, calm down, think," she told herself. If they were indeed waiting for her, it meant someone knew she was staying late. Someone knew she would go home. Someone had planned this. And then the strange documents, the support services, the forged signature, resurfaced in her mind. Elena suddenly felt that it was all connected. She went up to her floor and practically ran to her office. She closed the door, sat down, and with trembling fingers turned on the computer again. In moments like these, A person either panics or clings to what they know. Elena knew how to work with figures and documents. She opened those peculiar payments, then found similar ones, then the counterparties. Some of the firms were shell companies. She could tell immediately. Addresses, phone numbers, strange names. Everything was done professionally, but with a sinister professionalism. Elena realized this wasn't a mistake. It was a scheme. And if it was a scheme, then someone was afraid she'd discover it. She glanced at the clock, 11:20. The two men at the entrance might still be waiting, so she couldn't leave now. Elena dialed security, but her fingers froze above the buttons. Don't call anyone. Why had Nina Ivanovna written that? It meant she was afraid the call would be heard. Elena picked up her phone and texted her sister briefly. I'll be late. Everything is fine, nothing more. Then she opened the folder where she saved document copies and began making backups of suspicious files onto a flash drive, onto the cloud, onto anything she could. She was scared, but an even stronger feeling prevailed. If I back down now, tomorrow might be too late. At midnight, a soft knock sounded on the office door. Elena flinched. Elena Petrovna! A whisper came. It was Nina Ivanovna. Elena opened the door with the chain on. Are you still here? Yes, Elena replied. They're waiting at the entrance. Nina Ivanovna nodded, her lips trembling. I saw them arrive about 40 minutes before you were due to leave. I realized they were watching for you. How did you know they were looking for me? Nina Ivanovna swallowed. They asked the security guard if the accountant was still here. The guard said yes. I heard it. Elena closed her eyes. Everything became perfectly clear. Nina Ivanovna, why are you helping me? She asked quietly. The cleaner looked at her as if the question was the most difficult thing for her. Because she said, I stayed silent once a long time ago, and I regretted it my whole life. And you're a good person. You don't hurt anyone. And I don't want... She didn't finish. Elena opened the door wider. Come in. Nina Ivanovna entered, closed the door, sat on a chair, and removed her gloves. Her hands were old, cracked from chemicals. What did you find? She asked. Elena showed her the screen. Nina Ivanovna didn't understand the numbers, but she grasped the essence. She sighed softly. So, it's true. So, it's because of this. Who might be involved? Elena asked. Nina Ivanovna paused, then said cautiously, I overheard a conversation a week ago in the smoking area on the first floor. Your director was talking to someone. I don't know who, but I remember the words. She's too smart. She'll see everything. We need to deal with this. Elena paled. The director? I don't know. Nina Ivanovna said quickly. Maybe he was talking about someone else, but today I saw those men and remembered. Elena felt like she was sitting on ice. She wanted to stand up and run. But where to? Home was out. The street was out. What should we do? She asked. Nina Ivanovna looked at her intently. Do you have anyone you trust? Not from work. My sister, but I don't want to scare her. Then the police, Nina Ivanovna said quietly, but in a way that implied they shouldn't know in advance. Elena thought. She knew that if she simply called 112 and said, I'm scared, they might not react quickly. Facts, evidence, documents were needed, and the timing had to be right. She looked at the flash drive on the table. I have copies, Elena said. I can prove there's fraud. Then they need you alive, Nina Ivanovna said, either to retrieve the documents or to ensure your silence. Elena felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She looked out the window. It was dark outside. Will they leave? She asked. Nina Ivanovna shook her head. They're patient. Elena suddenly remembered that the business center had a second exit, a service entrance for garbage and suppliers. Almost no one used it, and there was an underground parking lot. Nina Ivanovna, Elena said, do you know where the cameras are? Which ones are working? The cleaner nodded. I do. I see everything. We have a monitor at the security post. Can you guide me so they don't notice us?" Nina Ivanovna looked at her intently and slowly nodded. "I can, but you'll have to do one thing. Don't come back here tomorrow, as usual. Do you understand?" Elena nodded. They waited until 1 o'clock in the morning. At that hour, only the duty security guard remained in the building. Nina Ivanovna quietly peered into the corridor, checking for anyone. Then they walked together, slowly, like two shadows. Nina Ivanovna led her not to the main entrance, but towards the service elevator. The elevator descended to the basement, which smelled of paint and dampness. There was an exit to the dumpsters and a small door to the street. "This door is rarely used," Nina Ivanovna whispered, "and the cameras here are old. They often freeze." She didn't finish, but Elena understood. The cleaner had ensured the camera wouldn't detect them. Outside, it was cold, a dark parking lot and sparse streetlights. Elena shivered. Nina Ivanovna pressed a small piece of paper into her hand. "This is my nephew's number. He works in security, but not here. He's honest. If anything happens, call him." Nina Ivanovna. Elena wanted to say thank you, but the words wouldn't come. "Go," the cleaner said, "and take care of yourself." Elena nodded and walked towards the road. She ordered a taxi, not to her home, but to her sister's, without warning her in advance, simply because going home now felt terrifying. Her sister opened the door in her robe, her eyes wide with fear. "Lena, what are you doing out so late?" Elena just said, "Can I spend the night? I'll explain later." Her sister didn't ask any questions, just let her in, made tea, and covered her with a blanket. Elena barely slept that night. She lay there listening to the silence, recalling the faces of those men and Nina Ivanovna's trembling voice. In the morning, Elena began to act. She didn't go to the office. Instead, she went to the bank to withdraw a small amount of cash, just in case, then to a notary to certify copies of some documents she had. She understood that if a serious conversation ensued, it was important for the papers to be official, not just on a flash drive. Then she did something she had never done before. She went to an acquaintance, a lawyer who had once helped her neighbor. The lawyer, a man in his 50s, listened attentively without interrupting, then said, "Elena Petrovna, this looks like siphoning money through shell companies. If you have copies and can link them to specific signatures, it's serious, but you need to proceed carefully. Are you sure you're being watched?" Elena remembered the two men at the entrance and the note. "Yes," she said, "and I believe they might try to silence me." The lawyer nodded. "Then here's what we'll do. I'll help you draft a statement and attach the evidence. Then we'll file a complaint with the authorities, not at the counter, but through the Economic Crimes Division, officially with registration. And it's essential to include a note that you fear pressure." Elena nodded. She was scared, but fear was now accompanied by a sense of purpose, a plan. She signed the papers. The lawyer made copies, sent some materials electronically, and handed over others against a receipt. When everything was done, Elena walked outside and for the first time in 24 hours took a slightly calmer breath. At least now someone knows, she thought. That evening, her phone rang from an unknown number. "Elena Petrovna," a male voice asked, "this is from your office. Why didn't you come in today? The director is worried." "I have a fever," Elena lied. "I'll be there tomorrow." "Please do come tomorrow," the voice said far too softly. "The director wants to speak with you personally." Elena understood. It had begun. She didn't go in the next day or the day after. On the third day, the lawyer called her himself. "Elena Petrovna, you did everything correctly. The case has been registered, and you should know, this morning there was an inspection at your office. Some documents were seized. The director is agitated." Elena remained silent. "And one more thing," the lawyer added. "It's best for you not to live at your usual address for now and to vary your routes." Elena thanked him and hung up. Then she called Nina Ivanovna. It rang for a long time. Finally, a female voice answered. "Hello, Nina Ivanovna. It's Elena. Are you all right? A pause. I'm fine, Nina Ivanovna said softly. It's just that they didn't let me into work today, said until further notice. I understand it's because of you, but I don't regret it. Elena felt a lump in her throat. I'm sorry, you shouldn't have, the cleaner said. You're alive, and that's what matters. Then things moved quickly, but without the dramatic scenes of a TV series. There were no shouting matches in the director's office, no chases through darkened streets. There was paperwork, calls, interrogations, reports. Elena met with her lawyer, answered questions, provided copies, and confirmed details. One evening, an investigator called and said, Elena Petrovna, you can stop worrying. Measures have been taken. The people who were waiting for you have been identified. They weren't random passers-by. You genuinely had cause for concern. Elena sat in her sister's kitchen and stared at the table. She felt no joy, only exhaustion and a strange sense of relief, like the quiet after a long thunderstorm. A week later, Elena learned that the company's director had resigned due to health reasons, then that searches were being conducted at several employees' offices, and that the company was being thoroughly investigated. She had feared everything would be swept under the rug, but her lawyer said, You provided too many documents, and you're no longer alone. Other people have started talking now. When one person speaks, others realize that silence won't save them. Elena thought of Nina Ivanovna. She had been dismissed simply due to restructuring, without any fuss. Elena met her a month later at a small cafe near the metro. Nina Ivanovna arrived in a clean coat and with a neat handbag. She looked tired but composed. I found a job at another cleaning company, she said. The pay is less, but the people are better. Elena took an envelope from her bag. Nina Ivanovna, she said quietly. I don't know how to repay you, but this is at least for the beginning. Nina Ivanovna looked at the envelope and shook her head. No need. Yes, there is, Elena said firmly, because you saved me, and because you lost your job because of me. The cleaner paused, then took the envelope but didn't open it, tucking it into her bag. All right, she said. But know this, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it so I can look myself in the eye later. Elena nodded. She understood. They sat and drank tea. Ordinary tea, without pretense. Outside, people walked by, hurried, talked. Life flowed like a river. Several more months passed. Elena changed jobs. She joined the new company quietly without a grand title. She just wanted simplicity, to be able to go home peacefully in the evening without looking over her shoulder. She stopped staying late, called her sister more often, and went for walks more frequently, as if relearning to live without constant tension in her shoulders. And one day, she received a call from her former office, asking her to collect her personal belongings. Elena arrived during the day, in clear weather. The building looked the same as always, glass, metal, turnstiles, and only she knew that her life could have ended in this place once, if not for the note on the napkin. She exited the elevator and saw a new security guard on the first floor. He didn't even recognize her. To him, she was just a woman with a bag. Elena walked toward the main entrance. Everything was calm there. People came and went. No one was waiting for anyone. She stopped at the door and looked out at the street. Inside, all was quiet. Elena remembered that evening. The flickering light on the fire escape, the cold window, the two men at the entrance, and the voice in her head. She hasn't come out yet. It now seemed like a different life. But the lesson remained. On her way, she thought that life isn't always divided into good and bad. Sometimes, a person appears whom no one notices, and that person becomes the only protection. And sometimes, danger comes not with a loud noise, but quietly, like footsteps in a night corridor. And she also thought about something else. In a world where many are accustomed to silence, one small act, a note on a napkin, can be stronger than fear. That, perhaps, was the most important thing. because it's not just money, not just connections, and not just strength that saves. Sometimes, simple human conscience and the courage to say, "I will not be silent," saves. And Elena knew. If fate ever presented her with a choice again to remain silent or to warn, she would no longer hesitate.